Hello to whoever ends up watching this. I will share my screen, or at least a document here. So for my paper, I will be addressing the question of is memory both necessary and sufficient for personal identity? I'm going to disagree with that stance. I'm going to say that memory is sufficient, but not necessary. And I'll get into that. But first, I will identify, or not identify, but define personal identity as it's what makes a person the same through time. But the core of my argument will be that memory and the necessity or sufficiency of it exists on a spectrum. So basically, I will be arguing that small losses in memory do not have the ability to change identity. Larger gaps in time or loss of foundational memories can have an effect on personal identity. So, I'm going to use the example of the Lost Mariner for anyone who does not remember that. Essentially, it's a guy who loses like 40 years of his life, still thinks he's 19 when he's like in his 60s or something, and is essentially a completely different person. He did live fairly normally into like his mid 40s, I believe, and you know had a bad relationship with his brother, and all these other things, alcoholism, and um, in the story, at the point where he's in his older age, he doesn't remember any of those things. He thinks his relationship with his brother is great. um, has lost all kinds of foundational and memories and large portions of it, large time frames. And so my argument is basically going to be that that sort of memory loss definitely is going to be enough to change personal identity. Um, so I will also compare that to, like, say, like a blackout. Maybe a few hours, or um, it could even be longer than that. But you don't really lose personal identity in that. Say you commit a crime during a blackout, you're still that person. If you've ever seen someone who is blacked out, they still know who they are. They may not remember it the next day, but they know who they are. They have the same sort of uh ideas, and they know the same people. If they know you, they're gonna recognize you. They may feel differently about you or something like that, but they're still the same person. As far as the disagreements with my argument, I will address Locke. Locke takes the view that basically any loss of memory separates the personal identity. So that person in a blackout is a different person. His core argument is that if you don't remember something, how can you be held responsible for it? Um, so, like I said before, even in that moment, you're still yourself. If you've ever heard the expression, a drunk mouth speaks a sober mind. Basically, people that get a little tipsy or something, they will often say things that they are already thinking, but just you know once they lose their inhibition, they'll actually say it. So these people are still themselves, sometimes more themselves than when they are sober in some cases, because they they lose that inhibition. Whether they have a recollection or not, it is still them. um, I am going to acknowledge that there are some exceptions to this case, because one of the things that I hate about a lot of the philosophers that we've um, studied is that they try to make these universal and sort of all-encompassing statements, and I don't like that. And I think that's a perfect recipe for being wrong 100% of the time, is being absolutist with it. There are always going to be exceptions. Say, I don't know, a person with multiple personalities, or a completely like fugue state where you literally just, lose all uh, uh, understanding of yourself. Um, and but for for 99 point whatever percent of people, these rules are going to be pretty solid. So outside of those very few uh, exceptions, yeah, this is going to be my argument, and that's going to be the angle that I come at it from.